This is a video that I have decided to make, that's Dr. Peter Hussein, to try to teach you on how to know the earthly parables. For Jesus said, I have told you earthly things and you did not understand. How could you now understand heavenly things? That is the kingdom of heaven. So let's unravel these parables. In order to do that, you must first read the parables, and I advise you in chapter 13 to chapter 25 contained in the Gospel of Matthew, to me is the best explanation of and presentation of the parables of Jesus Christ. So you should read the parables over and over and over and memorize these parables word for word. Then I advise you, think about them, and then write them down in steps, each item as narrated by Jesus the Christ. When you do that, you'll find the principles or the steps or the recipes in each parable. Then you would know the parables. Remember, we are trying to learn the parables. We are not yet learning the kingdom of heaven. Now, as I said, don't focus on the kingdom of heaven yet. Instead, focus heavily, and I mean heavily, on the parables if you want to know them. So read them, get to know them, talk about them, write them down in steps, draw them out, picture them, and think on them as much as you can. And these parables you can find in Matthew chapter 13 to chapter 25. And I'd also like to say that Mark and Luke also contain the parables, but John does not really deal much with the parables. Now, these parables are really short stories of earthly physical situations, people, and things that we know very well. Now, all languages use parables, and the Bible, being the biggest seller of all books, written in all different languages, contain these parables. And Jesus was one, it seems, who used parables abundantly. Now, how to know them? Now, parables have hidden meaning, and these hidden meaning are inside the depth of the parables. So you have to look for them. Now, it's not easy to find, but it is my intention to assist you in finding them. So, I want you to persist and persist and persist until the true meaning of the parables, the earthly parables, reveal themselves to you. And of course, once the Holy Spirit sees you are interested in learning about the parables, the Holy Spirit will open your mind and insert the true meaning to you. He will reveal to you everything about the parables. For one of his duties is to interpret the parables and reveal them to you. Now, just another item to highlight, parables are the known, and the kingdom of heaven is the unknown. Now, we all know the stories in the parables, we know them very well, but we really don't focus on it at any length of time, because they are so simple and so ordinary and down to earth that we tend to go more and plunge into the kingdom of heaven. And we think we know the kingdom of heaven. But the parables are really similar to the kingdom of heaven, and the kingdom of heaven is also similar to the parables. Now you notice in this slide I use the abbreviation KOH to mean kingdom of heaven. Now let's move on and see how we're going to do this. what is the likeness in the parable to the kingdom of heaven? Now the likeness is not in the physical ingredients in the parable. It is in the principles in each parable. And each parable contains its own share of principles or recipes or steps or formula. And the parables are about a physical situation existing in this world, whereas the kingdom of heaven is in the spiritual realm. So we are seeing that hidden in the physical parables and earthly parables and in the kingdom of heaven are similarities, but only in the principles, not in the ingredients. Okay, let's proceed. Now, how you find them again, I want to highlight and repeat myself. You must learn the parables heart by heart. You must learn the parables word by word. And you must be able to think on them. You must be able to talk about them. You must be able to write it down. You must be able to interpret them. You must be able to draw them. And you must close the Bible after you think you have learnt the parable and memorize it and talk about it to yourself and itemize the steps as in a recipe, because all recipes contain steps or principles. And when you do that, you will find the principles hidden in all the parables used by Jesus the Christ. Now the kingdom of heaven comes next. It is within you, so said Jesus. So apply these principles and do them boldly to the kingdom of heaven within you. You draw the principles in the body of the kingdom of heaven and the human being, then you will see the kingdom of heaven which is embedded within you, and it will reveal itself. And then you will see the actual kingdom of heaven which is within you. So what was invisible is now visible. So imagine this, how wonderful this is. You will now be able to see the kingdom of heaven with your eyes. How wonderful that is.